Morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Friday, January 20th, 2017.
Commissioner Rivas, Repenning, James, Davis, and Jacinto are present. President James, we have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Angelica Samayoa with the Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Ruben Flamenco, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning, Shwam Kiargani, Los Angeles Sanitation.
Good morning, Julie Allen, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we do not have any speaker cards under general public comment, no commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section. We did receive a speaker card on item number 1 for today's agenda.
Okay, then we will go ahead and close our general public comment as well as our Neighborhood Council category of commentary. And let's start this morning. We have two presentations, and let's go ahead and start with a certificate of recognition that I will present. So if you'll indulge me for a moment, Mr. Campos, I'm just going to come around to the podium, okay? Colleagues, it's my pleasure to introduce to you this morning Sylvia Garrett. And Sylvia is a student at the Marlboro School, and I learned about some work that Sylvia had done a few months ago from our former colleague and our former board president, Capri Maddox, in the city attorney's office. And Capri joins us this morning, and I'll see if we can hear a little bit from Capri as well after I finish making this presentation to an outstanding Angelino, Sylvia Garrett. Let me share a little bit about what Sylvia did. So Sylvia spent the summer after just the 8th grade developing a method for individual water infiltration of contaminants, pesticides, toxins, and disease-causing microorganisms. Remember, this was after the 8th grade. She was inspired to develop the portable filtration system that she developed after a family friend shared a story about his vacation in Mexico, during which he drank only bottled water. After drinking a glass of soda with just 3 ice cubes in it, however, he became very ill. According to Sylvia, she began thinking of ways to solve the problem, as any 8th grader would do, I suppose. She also realized that her filter system could have global implications. According to Sylvia, she realized that she could create a comprehensive water filtration method. It could be used beyond leisure travel. It could directly affect people who live in places that don't have viable natural drinking water resources. So Sylvia researched the water infiltration methods that were currently on the market. She found that there were not many options. She came up with preliminary drawings of a straw housing unit that would partially treat water before entering the straw. Sylvia's design utilizes solar power, of course, and a configuration of filters and sieves in a straw housing unit. On the outside of the system, there's a solar panel that activates a UV light that kills living microorganisms and bacteria. Sylvia chooses to design a solar-powered system rather than battery-operated, so the straw could be used in remote places without requiring replacement batteries. Truly novel. Among other features, the system also contains charcoal and carbon filters to eliminate pesticides and herbicides, and an iodine-treated sieve without sieve to filter out arsenic. Now, this is where my former career comes into mind. With the help of a lawyer, which I love that you found a lawyer through LegalZoom. All right, excellent. It's an excellent. LegalZoom's the one that should be, and they may be advertising your case soon, Sylvia. But it really does it sends a message on how access to legal counsel is available to many, which is very important for people to learn. You help send that message. Sylvia started the process of filing for a patent at the beginning of her 9th grade year. I don't know many friends in my 9th grade class that had applied for patents. After waiting a full year, she received a notice of allowance for her patent application. According to Sylvia, it was such an investment of time, and she feels passionately that she can help many people. She is developing a one-for-one business plan, which means that for every leisure traveler that buys a portable filter straw, she would like to donate a straw to communities with limited drinking water resources. With the patent application process successfully behind her, Sylvia started the Marlboro Club, patent pending, appropriate name, to share her experience with her classmates. So this was brought to my attention by Capri, and Sylvia's proud mother, Kelly, is right here. Kelly Porter is a member of our city attorney's office, and in our risk assessment unit. I remember when Kelly came to my office, now maybe 18 months ago or so, to talk about ways that we can do a much better job of risk assessment in the city of Los Angeles. So a powerful mother-daughter team for residents in the city of Los Angeles. And I can't imagine your pride on the work that your daughter has done. And maybe sometime when she explains what she's doing to you, you get even more excited about it. So I have no clue how you would put together something like that. We thought it would be appropriate. And it's also appropriate that we have our Bureau of Sanitation following you with a presentation this morning. The Bureau of Sanitation is featured a bit this morning so that they can hear about the work that you've done, Sylvia, right here firsthand at the Board of Public Works. So we have a certificate of recognition for Sylvia. The Board of Public Works honors Sylvia Garrett on your acquisition of a U.S. patent covering the development of a method for individual water filtration of contaminants, pesticides, toxins, and disease-causing microorganisms, and on your continuing commitment to the betterment of your community and the city of Los Angeles. So congratulations, sir. There we go. Hey, Paul. Yeah. I'll put her in between us. Thank you. Do you want to speak before or after Sylvia? Okay, and so before Sylvia says a few words, we're going to have our former president, Capri Maddox.
Thank you so much, Commissioner James. Really appreciate you and your leadership and all the commissioners, bureau heads, of course, our city attorney and our executive officer. It's truly a pleasure to be before you. I just had to let you know that Sylvia is a part of the city attorney family as well. She helps us. She volunteers for the community. She was actually out with me and Mr. Fuhrer for the Kingdom Day Parade just a couple days ago, and I just wanted to know that let you know the city attorney's office cannot be outdone of honoring the best and brightest in our city. Commissioner Davis, I'd like to especially thank you for your interest in honoring Sylvia as well. Her mother is an amazing rock star with the city attorney's office, and so I'm not surprised that Sylvia has done such a great thing, but I'm still very impressed about it. As Commissioner James said, President James said, in the 8th grade, she was thinking about how to make the world a better place. I do know she's interested in going to medical school at Brown University, and so she's going to do more things. And I thought it was fitting to bring her to the Public Works family, because when I sat here as the president of the board, I was always in awe of the people that stood here and did so much with their talent and to make things better in the city. And so when I see see that in someone else, I think we've got to get her connected to the Public Works family. And I hope that you continue along this line. You can, go to medical school and do whatever you need to do, but you can see that we have so many issues in the world today. And I know that, speaking of the world, this is my last thing that I want to say. There's a lot of people that are anxious today and protests and a lot of things going on. And when it comes down to it, people are worried about their future. But when I look at Sylvia and see what we have as a rising star, 10th grade class president at Marlboro, doing wonderful things in leadership already, I feel a significant level of comfort and pride. So on behalf of Mr. Fuhrer that's in the other chamber honoring someone else, I would like to just give our regards on behalf of the City Attorney's Office. I'm not going to read this cert, but I just wanted to present it to you and let you know you have love from many people in the city family. So thank you very much. Thank you for having me, President James, Commissioners.
Thank you. Sylvia, the floor is yours if you would like.
I would like to thank the President of the Board, Mr. Kevin James, and the Commissioners for your recognition of my patent. I would also like to thank my teachers at Marlboro School. Going to an all-girls school that encourages female leadership and interest in the STEM has really provided me with the confidence necessary to pursue my interests. In addition, I would like to thank Capri Maddox for being a mentor. Finally, I would like to give a big thank you to my mom for always supporting me, loving me, inspiring me, and going along with my harebrained schemes. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Capri, if we could we'll take a brief recess for a photo with Sylvia and her mom and yourself and the certificates with our commission. For those listening online, we'll be right back. Okay, agenda item number 1 under the Bureau of Engineering, Council District 5 above ground facility appeal, 6530 West Drexel Avenue on the Sweetser side of the lot. Continued from Wednesday, January 11th, 2017, recommending that the board deny Edmund and Ravit Azizi's appeal of the Bureau of Engineering's determination to locate the above-ground facility adjacent to 6530 West Drexel Avenue on the Sweetser side of the lot. Mr. Ledoux, you can summarize agenda item number 1, then we have a speaker card on number 1 as well. And I would just reference, for those of you in the room, it may be a little difficult to read until you get closer to the podium because of the lighting's a little dim today. We had a feature film shoot yesterday or Wednesday, I guess, starring Johnny Depp and Julianne Moore that was in here. So a large feature film. Obviously, their lighting technician tinkered with ours, and we'll have to have the lights reset by Monday. But go ahead, sir.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Ledoux. I work with Bureau of Engineering Central District. This is our AT&T Light Gig cabinet for high-speed internet. It is actually their smallest cabinet that is 31.5 inches high, 25 inches wide, and 19.9 inches deep. It is in CD5, Paul Koretz's district. They have remained neutral on this. We did get an appeal by the homeowners who are adjacent to this site at 6530 West Drexel on the Sweetser Avenue side of their property, Edmund and Vivette Sisi. Basically, Mrs. Assisi's mother is wheelchair bound and comes and visits the grandkids. They said at least once a week, if not more, and it comes up and drive in a van, and they're afraid that this cabinet and its placement will interfere with their ability to park that van and get her off the van and into their house. Their front actually has steps to it, so they bring the mother in from their driveway, which is the rear of the property on the same side of the property that this cabinet is being placed. We did, actually I did 2 site visits out there, one with AT&T on October 31st and another one later on at Commissioner Jacinto's urging on December 6th to see if we could possibly change the placement of this cabinet. There are 4 lots that are on this block. Basically, AT&T has placed it in the center of the area in which it's going to cover, and their pole attachment is near where they want to place this cabinet. When we looked at the 4 lots out there, the lots across the street basically have front entrances. There are catch basins, trees, driveways. There's too much interference, and because they do have front entrances that border that side of the property, we did not think that those were doable. On the same side of the lot, the property next to the Assisi's is the side of their house. It could possibly go there. The problem is their house is 2-story, and it's more visible to that property, but it could go there. The day we did the site visit with AT&T and with the Assisi's, the homeowners who live at that property were there, so they knew what we were doing. They asked, and obviously they do not want to see the cabinet adjacent to their property. But like I said, that is an alternate location. The Assisi's property, I have a large picture here, which I'll let you pass around so you can see how it's configured. And it does show some measurements there. They do have, like I said, the front of their house, the pathway comes out on the corner there, but it does have steps, so they can't use that for wheelchair access. You'll see there that I have the 45-foot visibility triangle, which they can't place, AT&T cannot place the cabinet, and then there's a very large mature tree and a small tree that only has a 19-foot distance between them. So we really couldn't put the cabinet there because it would interfere with the roots of that large mature tree, and those roots are readily visible when you go out to the property. So AT&T put it on the other side of the tree. Now, if you see there, I think the plan or the picture shows there's 41 feet between the tree and the driveway, and this cabinet is only 25 inches wide, and if need be, we could always move it a little further back from the curb so as to be out of the way of any doorways and stuff swinging. From an intrusive viewpoint, that is the best site. The other property next to it, it could go there, would be more intrusive to that property as far as visibility and viewscape goes. But they're not in favor of that either. So, you know, if the board does decide to approve the appeal and go with the other site, we will be facing another appeal.
And I feel like, so you're saying, Mr. Ledoux, obviously we face an appeal either way. That's not an unusual occurrence here.
No.
As we build out the digital infrastructure of the city. If I understood you correctly, though, in trying to find the location that is the least intrusive to whatever property owner, that's what AT&T has done here to find the least intrusive spot, regardless of which property owner it's closest to.
Correct. And as you notice, there, I said there's 41 feet between the tree and the driveway, and this cabinet's only 25 inches wide, so it doesn't really block parking very much.
And the very real concern of the appellant for access to the home so that they can have the ability to move a wheelchair in and out without obstruction, did your site visit leave you with the conclusion that the wheelchair could access to and from the residence without any obstruction one way or the other by the apparatus?
Well, when you're dealing with, you know, like I said, really 41 feet of space, and it could park on the other, the van could park on the other side of the street. Basically, you have curb, then you have ground parkway, and then you have the sidewalk. So the cabinet's not interfering with the sidewalk in any way, shape, or form. And you do have, you've got quite a bit of place where you can park. You've got, on one side of the tree, you've got, 64 feet. On the other side of the tree, you got 41 feet. And the driveway is actually comes out on the rear of the property. So the ability of that cabinet to interfere with someone parking a van that has some sort of wheelchair device in it to offload someone is very minimal.
And so is there plenty of room to park in that area and exit a wheelchair even with the infrastructure there?
It's somewhat problematic in that, at least when we were there was cars parked all up and down that curb. So there is a lot, you know, it's a residential area. There is a lot of car traffic, and a lot of cars were parked. That whole curb was sort of taken up when we did our site visit.
So there's shared space anyway.
Yes.
So to pull up a van with a wheelchair to access the home, because of the steps in the front, are you telling me that the van would pull up and access a ramp towards the back of the house? Whether or not the van were parking there, the van could pull up, release the passenger in the wheelchair, and then exit and park elsewhere.
Yeah, I don't know how their van is set up. The speaker card that was filled out is by the homeowner, and so you can ask them, you know, how that van is set up for wheelchair access and how they offload their mother-in-law.
Okay. Other questions? Commissioner, anybody? Okay, thank you, Mr. Ledoux. We'll hear from speaker card Edward Michael Azizi. Sir, we don't, when we have a real party and interest, we don't put the 2-minute time limit on you. The only thing that we ask of everyone is that if you start to repeat yourself, then I'll step in.
Understood.
But if there's something that you feel we need to hear, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I wanted to thank the Commission for giving me the opportunity to speak out today. My mother-in-law and my wife were actually very interested in coming in today, but due to the heavy rainstorm, we were unable to get him here with the newborn baby as well. Mr. Jacinto was nice enough to meet them last time we had a discussion in regards to the matter. Our major concern here is the access for her mother. She's a first-time grandmother and visits my wife very frequently to help with the baby. It's our first baby, and so her help is very much needed. To take care of the baby, babysit the baby. Give us some free time to have for ourselves. Like Mr. Ledoux was speaking, he did say that the street is very full. So on days that we know she's coming, I tend to try to park my car on the side of the house to allow a parking spot for me to move out for the van to come and park in my place to unload her mom and give her entrance from our back gate. Our front, unfortunately, does have many steps, and it does not allow us to put a handicap ramp, so our large driveway in the back is the best place for her to come in. One of the main reasons we bought the house, actually, less than a year ago, was because of the easy access for her to gain to the property. The first site visit that Mr. Ledoux made to the property, I was very nice, and I gave my time to meet with him. And we discussed the different regions. Like he said, the back neighbor is an option. Down the block, there's rental properties that can have access to that. Unfortunately, the property owner behind us was there and was very rude to Mr. Ledoux, actually, and he could probably attest to that. I don't know if he got scared, but he is a pretty intimidating guy behind us, and he did say some curse words to Mr. Ledoux, and I don't know if that's a factor in the decision, but I've been very civil in the matter. This is something personal to our heart, and I'm making our plea here because of ADA rights. The box, we have very limited space to park a van for the passenger to get out, and in my opinion, the box would impede on that, making it much harder for her to come over. And you have the pictures there. You could see for yourself that, like Mr. Ledoux was saying, there's many trees. There's a part of the curb in the front that's red. Then there's a few trees, and then the only empty space that's left is the back area where the AT&T is proposing to put the box. So that's my plea here. There are rentals a few blocks away. I'm sure AT&T, as a major corporation, can put the box where there is rental properties, more commercial properties, and pull a line to better accommodate the neighborhood. I understand that it's a digital infrastructure. It's important to the neighborhood, so I take that into consideration as well. But impeding on somebody's handicap rights, in my opinion, is not right as well. And I would like for you guys to take that into consideration, please, when you make your decision.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Aziz before we move on? Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you, President James. Mr. Aziz, I just want to thank you again for your citizen advocacy and for representing your family, your mother-in-law, your wife, and your beautiful baby daughter. I had a question for Mr. Jordan on the issue of ADA. If that cabinet in the right-of-way, does it impede, does it affect any of ADA accessibility issues, Mr. Jordan?
No. Often the principal concern on ADA in situations where they're in the parkway is the sidewalk. So there's no issue here. The sidewalk would be unimpeded. Given the parkway space that this is being located and the width of this cabinet being only 25 inches wide, I do not see any violation of the ADA with the location of the cabinet in its recommended spot.
Okay. Mr. Aziz, I'm going to ask you another question, sir. Your back gate, there's a driveway that's located to you. Have you ever, or do you ever unload your mother-in-law to and from that back gate?
Unfortunately, due to the slope of the driveway, we have not been able to. So it has to unload on a curb sidewalk.
On the sidewalk, then how do you get her in the wheelchair to the house? Because you don't go through the front steps, sir.
She goes over the grass to the sidewalk and inside the garage door.
To the garage door. Yeah. To the garage door gate. So you're saying from the driveway, if the van is exiting either way, the slope is too.
We have tried before. Because of the slope of the ramp, it hasn't worked out for us.
All right. Thank you. Is there a representative from AT&T?
Yes, Mr. Ledoux is a representative from AT&T here?
Can we call
Okay,
him up?
yes, could one of them come up, please? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. May I ask a question? Mr. Pollack and Mr. Johns, can you again describe the process or just the justification for this exact location for the application for the AGF, sir?
Yes. Good morning. My name is Noel Pele. I'm with AT&T. I'm joined with my colleague John Johnston with our construction and engineering. The placement for this location, as been indicated with all of the placement, is relative to the service area of where the product will be going out to our customers on this with regards to the technical components of that. My colleague John can go ahead and speak to that as well. Obviously, with regards to the placement of an above-ground facility, we are governed by the AGF ordinance, which would also restrict us as far as where the placement of a cabinet would go on this. So relative to this specific location, because it is a corner lot, we do have some impediments relative to a 45-degree visibility triangle area on the corner. There is the issue with the driveway, the distance requirements on it, and as well as our own internal requirements with regards to the trees and the tree roots that are placed there for the placement of our cabinet in order for it to reach the adjacent pole where the power will be coming from on that.
Thank you, sir. I was referring more towards this location as opposed to Mr. Azizi had mentioned, down the blocks there's rentals sort of on a wider scope, not so much on the property, but the property versus the surrounding area, sir.
I defer to John.
Good morning. John Johnston here from AT&T. Thank you for your time. We try and locate this within the center of each of our districts, of our telecommunication districts, and this is as close as we can get. The telephone pole that it's going to runs perpendicular to the street, so it needs to be within that section right there so we can get to that pole. And we pick the side of the street where the pole is as opposed to the other side of the street where we'd have to cross, and as well as the items that Mr. Ledoux mentioned that would be impediments with storm drains and trees and as the resident mentioned, some rowdy neighbors. That's why we have the location that we chose.
Thank you. Any further questions for AT&T before Commissioner Davis?
As a matter of fact, I know often you have various challenges confronting you. In this case, where we have a senior who needs to have access to the house, is it possible that we might be able to have an alternative in terms of placing the equipment given the circumstance that the complainant has discussed with us?
As we mentioned, we in our site visit, and I would imagine at the commissioner hearing as well, we're more than willing to move it up and down that parkway.
Sure.
To take advantage of whatever opportunities we could do. If I can mention, as Mr. Ledoux mentioned also, we have a restriction as part of the AGF ordinance where we can't place our cabinet within the first 45 feet from the corner. Often that's painted red anyway.
Sure.
But if it would seem that if someone is arriving to do a drop-off, that there would be no problem in pulling to that location, dropping them off, and then moving on.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the question I had related to a drop-off. Mr. Ledoux, could I ask you a question? You experienced the communications with the other neighbor when you were there on a second site visit?
Yes, they readily approached me and gave me their opinion.
Okay. Did they provide the basis of what I'm looking, without them being here, understood, I'm trying to gauge, AT&T said, look, and you had referenced, we can move it farther down that parkway.
Yes, we can.
And so that would move it farther down the parkway closer to the other residents, correct?
That would move it in front of a new house, so it would change the notification pattern, which would cancel out this application, and AT&T could reapply for the new location, yes.
Within the same parkway.
Oh, you're talking about with the same property?
Yeah.
within the same property, that's why Commissioner Cento had me go out there and relook and measure it, and that photograph that I showed you has measurements in there. It shows where the 45-degree triangle ends. And then the problem is we have two trees. We have a very mature tree, and then there's a small sapling, and there's only 19 feet between those two trees. And the problem is the mature tree has quite a large surface root system. So it would be very problematic putting it to the basically west of that large tree without damaging a major root of that tree.
Okay, so you're comfortable that, or you believe that for Mr. Azizi's property, the proposal is the only location for his property? Yes. I mean, if we don't want to put in the front is actually on the other street, although, like I said, their pathway to the front door comes out on that street. The front is the other way. And we generally do not place the cabinets in the front of property if we have an alternative not to. In this case, we do. There are two properties that are the side that it can go to. The thing is, as Mr. Assisi has described it, I'm assuming that they have a ramp that comes down from the side of the van onto the curb. That means that since their driveway is really in the middle of that block, they can park beside their neighbors next to them, drop the ramp down, and come. So you've got 41 feet from that tree, and then their driveway is probably another 10 feet, and then you have the whole width of that other property also with the driveway in the center. So they're equally distanced to the driveway, which they're bringing the mother into the property. What was when you spoke to the other property owner that discovered your attendance there, what was the gist of their opposition? They did mention that they have a special needs child. I don't know how that enters into this. And Mr. Assisi may know if that child is wheelchair bound or just has some sort of other handicap. I got the impression mainly they just didn't want it, because I don't know, just because you have a special needs child, how a 25-inch wide box anyway interferes with the child. I don't know, but I just thought that they may have said something else to you. That was mainly it. They said they have a special needs child, and if it was put there, they would appeal it. Okay, fine. You had indicated that there was an intrusivity issue because of 2 stories versus 1. Would you describe that? I can show you. Let me get a photo of that one. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Jeff, I think we have one.
Should be the third one.
I got that. The alternate site would be about to the side of where that gate is that appears in that roughly 8-foot wall. And you'll notice that it's a 2-story house. And if you compare that to the other photo, you'll see that putting the box there is a lot more intrusive to the viewscape than it is to where the proposed location is. And the subject property, Mr. Azizi's property, has this, does it have a wall of shrub? It has, as you see there, a shrub that's over 6 feet. It's about 8 feet, something like that. So yes, and they have a single-story home, so they don't have anything that overlooks that wall of shrubbery. Do you have a street shot of that?
Yes, I do, sir.
Could you show us that one of the subject property? Not the neighbor, but the subject property, the street shot. So was part of the determination of the subject property that the above-ground infrastructure would not be in their line of sight? That's correct.
Okay.
Colleagues, any other questions? Commissioner Cinto
Thank
under appellate hearing?
Yes, I believe that the Bureau staff has done the max that we can to accommodate. I think in the hearings, what we try to do is work with the homeowner or the appellant to try to find a solution. I think that this is the best case solution given the fact that there is an opportunity to park on either side, upside of the AGF. And that's also to say that we are sensitive to ADA issues, and according to our city attorney, that we have not impinged upon those. I'm fine with moving forwards.
All right, any other questions or comments from our colleagues regarding agenda item number 1? Commissioner Cinto's made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 1 as recommended by the Bureau. Commissioner, let me just ask you before I second the motion. In the appellate hearing that you had, anything else come out of the hearing that you recall that's worthy of adding?
No, just other than the egress or the disembarking of the senior. That was it.
Okay. Then I'll second the motion. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 1. Any issue sending it forthwith? We'll send the issue forthwith. Mr. Azizi, thank you for your participation and cooperation in working with our Bureau. Thank you, everyone. Commissioner Cinto, thank you as well. Agenda item number 2, in Council District 13, above-ground facility variance, 3500 West Sunset Boulevard, recommending that the board approve the request for a variance from the height limitation requirements of the above-ground facility ordinance pursuant to Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 62.08 VB, and secondly, authorize Mobility LLC to install a 39-foot, 2-inch high wood monopole in the public right-of-way adjacent to 3500 West Sunset Boulevard on the Golden Gate Avenue side of the lot. Mr. Ledoux on number 2.
As you stated, this is a mobility monopole, 39 feet 2 inches. It is actually in a commercial area. It's on the side of a strip mall. It is in CD 13 Mitchell Farrell. They've remained neutral. I have not received any phone calls, letters, or emails, either pro or negative, on this particular site. It's well placed. If you can see from the pictures there are other utility poles in the area. There's tall palm trees. Like I said, it's on a side street adjacent to a small strip mall.
Thank you. Any questions on agenda item number 2 at all? No opposition on number 2. Commissioner Cinto?
Jeff, can you just go ahead and reiterate the fact of the co-location priority, please?
They did, as the board report says, look into co-locating either a street light or a existing utility pole, and there was no co-location site found that was satisfactory.
Anything further on agenda item number 2? Commissioner Cinto's made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 2, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we will adopt agenda item number 2. Any issue sending number 2 forthwith? We will send number 2 forthwith. Agenda item number 3, Council District 15, an above-ground facility variance at 1202 West Anaheim Street, recommending that the board approve the request for a variance from the height limitation requirements of the above-ground facilities ordinance pursuant to Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 62.08 VB, and secondly, authorize Mobility to install a 49-foot, 1-inch high wood monopole in the public right-of-way adjacent to 1202 West Anaheim Street. Mr. Ledoux on number 3.
Once again, we have another mobility monopole that is 49 feet high. It is in CD 15, Joe Buscaino's district. They have remained neutral on it. I have not received any emails or communications or appeals, pro or con, on this. It is once again in a commercial area. It is fairly well sited. As you can see from the picture, it's in a gap between a commercial building to its right and it's a corner lot to the west is also commercial, and you'll see there's a gap in there with a huge billboard sign, and it's placed sort of to the side of that billboard sign. As you can see, the utility poles across the street have a lot of high-tension power lines on it, and even the utility pole next to it has got multiple cross arms, canisters, all sorts of stuff. So there was no ability to co-locate that on an existing utility pole, and there was no street light poles that would have worked to co-locate the antenna array on.
Thank you. Any questions on number 3? Questions on number 3? Commissioner Sindus made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 3, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we will adopt agenda item number 3. Any issue sending number 3 forthwith? We will send number 3 forthwith. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Campos, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Then we are adjourned with the exception of our management meeting, which will take place now in the conference room.